Number one is I am the CEO of Ion Labs, which I will explain what we are in a second. And secondly, I do whatever Varda Lieberman asked me to do. I was her student and I worked with her in academia, so we're wishing her a lot of great health, and I'm happy to be with you. And it looks like a great group and a great forum, and hopefully even next year we can do this in person. I would love to come visit at some point and join you physically. So what I thought about talking about is, as Tomas mentioned, to share with you a little bit about the Israeli ecosystem that's specific for the health tech industry, and then to talk a little bit about our model, which is uniquely positioned to help the ecosystem grow towards the future. So, as I mentioned before, I am the CEO of Ion Labs. Can you hear me, Thomas? It's okay. Can you see the screen? Yeah. Okay. So I'm the CEO of Ion Labs. Ion Labs is an innovation lab that was established by this amazing group of global partners, 4 pharma companies, all equal partners, together with Amazon Web Services as a tech partner and Israel Biotech Fund as a venture capital fund, with a very unique model that we adapted from a successful European model from the BioMedX institution, and we are a public-private partnership that is supported by the Israeli as part of their strategy to help build the health tech ecosystem. And we are in the space of connecting high tech with biotech, so helping to propel the healthcare industry in Israel by bringing tech capabilities into the biotech and health tech industry. And I'll show you what that means in a second. So just a few words about the Israeli healthcare ecosystem. And these are kind of the secret sauce elements about why Israel has a very unique and innovative ecosystem in Israel. First and foremost, we have, and I believe I saw you met with Moshe Bar Simantov this morning and others that could probably talk a lot about the healthcare system, but our healthcare system is one of the most efficient in the world. It has primary care provided for every citizen by 4 health management organizations that cover 100% of the population and compete with each other for the market share of citizens that sign up for the HMOs, and they compete based upon service. So they're not able to provide more or less service beyond what the scope of the government regulation provides them to. So they all have to provide healthcare in accordance with the government regulations, and really what differentiates them is the level of service, quality of service that they're able to bring, and that's what drives their market share. And they also have electronic data of a very diverse population going back decades, and this is something that's been able to be used for 2 purposes. First and foremost, we saw this very evidently with COVID. When it broke, one of the reasons that the vaccines were quick to roll out in Israel, one of the primary reasons, was because the Israeli healthcare system is very centralized, it's very controlled, and it's very data driven, so they have the capability to really reach a jab in the arm, a vaccine in the arm of the populations at risk very quickly, and then to work its way through the whole population in accordance with preference. So the healthcare system in Israel is a good healthcare system to try out innovation with and to use data for. We also have great talent here, both in the life sciences sector, coming from universities and the medical schools and research centers. And there's a legacy also of taking ideas that come out of universities and hospitals and commercializing them. We have 9 blockbuster drugs that have come out of Israeli universities. And we have tens of thousands of computer science students and life sciences PhDs every year, so at any given year. So it's a great place for elite human capital, as well as specifically human capital with a legacy going back in machine learning and artificial intelligence that have helped to disrupt pretty much every industry. And I will show you an example of one, with the exception of biotech, and that's starting to happen now. in the health tech industry. And fourth and not least, the fact that the government is committed to this industry as a strategic growth engine is very attractive for global corporates to come and invest in Israel, as well as for interested funds and venture capital funds, so that for the good companies, they're able to have access to capital in that sense. It's very important. And we're seeing here in Israel that we have a whole network of hubs and innovation labs, as well as investors that are here, health management organizations, hospitals, and multinationals that are starting to become present, but they're not yet with R&D centers on the ground, but they're starting to look into health tech in Israel, and that's something that's very promising for the future. Yet, I'm not just going to show you what's good about Israel. I'd also like to talk about some of the challenges that the Israeli ecosystem faces. And first and foremost, Israel is not a market. We're a country of just under 10 million people. We're not part of the European Union. We're not officially a state of the United States, even though sometimes people think we are. And we are not a large market, so it's not an obvious place for a multinational company to put an investment down. Secondly is that while we do have great research that's come out of Israel, we don't have great commercial and R&D development phases and scaling up development projects. That's something we haven't done. We don't have that many people in Israel that have actually developed a drug. And we don't have pharma multinationals with innovation arms and R&D groups on the ground in Israel. That's something we're also lacking. And from a cultural perspective, everything that's good about making Israel very attractive for innovation from a cultural standpoint, the fact that we don't take no for an answer and we're willing to take risks. In the pharma sector, that can also be a double-edged sword because there are processes that need to happen in the health tech sector and pharma specifically that require discipline, that require going in accordance with standards and rules, and that's not something that an innovative, open culture of defying the odds is necessarily going to live with very easily. And last but not least, because of all this, you also don't have experienced talent, and it's kind of the chicken and the egg in that sense. Yet despite all this, the Israeli government went and looked at whether or not they felt that they could build up the health tech sector in Israel to be a national economic growth engine for the country, and the government came out with a strategy top down from the Israel Innovation Authority saying that they would like to develop the health tech sector, but specifically in an area that they call bioconvergence, which is the convergence between engineering and tech disciplines with the biological disciplines of life sciences. And the nearest case study that I could show you for an example of how this works and what we can achieve together if we do this is from the automotive industry in Israel, where we've tried in Israel twice to build cars with the Susita, which was a pretty ugly version of a car going back 40 years, and on the right it was electronic vehicles before there was Tesla. And in both of these attempts failed, and the companies went bankrupt, and they don't make these cars anymore. Yet despite all that, you have over 600 startups in Israel in the automotive space, and several multinational companies that are all present here, and none of them build a car in Israel. So we have a great ecosystem for the automotive space, but all of them are using computational and engineering technologies, as well as primarily artificial intelligence, to make cars safer, more sustainable, faster, protect them from cybersecurity, etc., etc. And that is the vision for what we can do in the health tech sector. And we're seeing it already starting to happen, where there's a whole cluster of companies that are based on AI for the healthcare sector that are starting to grow. And we're seeing that, really there's over 300 companies, and most of them are in the AI space. And it was very evident during Corona that they were able to be very active in providing healthcare in a very short time. So that takes us to Ion Labs and where we fit in the puzzle. So we are a bioconvergence innovation lab, but the convergence specifically of AI and computational technologies with drug discovery and development, and we work according to the whole prospect, the whole pipeline of how do we understand diseases, discover drugs, and then improve them through clinical development. And our job as an innovation lab is to create 5 companies per year on average. And here you see we're already touching in our first year of operation since we launched in October, just under a year ago, we're already establishing 4 companies across this whole spectrum. And we're trying to address a fundamental challenge in the fact that tech and bio don't necessarily work too well together. That's what we're trying to address, because the pharma companies, the biotech companies know what the industry needs are that are unmet, which every entrepreneur wants. They have the proprietary data, and they know how to bring a product to market, to validate it and implement it in systems and approve it if needed. Yet they don't have, from them is not the most cutting edge technology that you get from startups or from academia. And so that's what brought us together at Ion Labs, to really come together and say we want to work together from day one, bringing the pharma partners that define the needs, bring the expertise, the data that's necessary, AWS that brings in their computational technology, a VC fund that can help make sure that these are companies that are with viable business models, and tapping into the best innovation engine and talented science that we can to address the challenges that we come up with. And we have the support of our global leadership of all of our companies to make sure that this is a global initiative here in Israel. And the way that we create 4 companies per year is in a very structured, systematic, 3-tiered model. First, we always start with the challenge that our pharma R&D partners say, this is something that is unmet, and then we launch it to find the best scientists out there globally, both from Israel, where there's a great talent pool, as I showed you before, but we do not limit ourselves to Israel, and we can find talent that comes from anywhere in the world. And we then bring in the top finalists that applied for that challenge, and we run them through a 5-day boot camp where we really train them and evaluate them for who is the best potential founder. And then our investment committee sees pitches at the end of that boot camp and selects one founder. And then the third pillar jumps in, where we really support them for success and growth. We set them up as a new startup. We give them funding, data, and all the support necessary, so that ultimately what we're trying to achieve is that our startups can leave our lab having raised their next rounds with a technology that's validated. And just to show you 2 examples, so our first challenge was in how do we design antibodies de novo in silico on computers using in silico technologies, computational technologies. And here the winner of that bootcamp and the founder of this company is going to come from Germany, relocate to Israel, and build up his company here. The second is a group of Israeli AI experts that have been working in the AI field at the forefront of technology, but not within biotech. They worked at Mobileye, which is an automotive company, again, that develops autonomous driving technologies for Tesla and for BMW, Mercedes, and all. And here what we're doing is bringing them into the pharma sector to address a huge challenge for the industry. And how do we use all this data to reduce the amount of animal studies that we create, and to take better decisions about which drug candidates are going to go into humans during clinical trials, so that we can de-risk that whole process and ultimately make it cheaper and much more effective with better outcomes for patients. And we have another challenge that's open. We'll be selecting these founders in November, where it's a group where what we're looking for here is how to improve the success rate using big data capabilities from phase 1 and phase 2 trials. How do we use all that data to be able to increase the probability of success of drug candidates in phase 3 clinical trials? And we get to see a lot of and develop a great talent pool of people that want to work in the intersection between tech and bio and bring in their tech capabilities into the biotech industry. And our job is just to help them, to remove every barrier possible so that we can help them succeed. So my one ask from everyone here is, please feel free to contact me, reach out to me if you have any questions. I ask that you please join our Ion Labs LinkedIn page and follow us on Twitter if possible. And please feel free, my contact details is here, and I'm happy to address any question now or whatever you'd like.
So, Matti, thank you very much. Because you cannot stay with us for the discussion, because you have some time limits, I would like to ask you a few questions now. Could you talk a little bit more about how important is basically, or how difficult it is to put people in the teams, because you have different expertise. You have people from Mobileye who go into the area of healthcare. This is one of the challenges here what we have in Central Europe, to open the door on the side of healthcare system. And the second question would be about the how do you partner with the partners in Europe? I mean, what's your experience? You mentioned Germany. So what are the cases? Do you have some partners in Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia?
So I'll take it one by one. First of all, multidisciplinary teams is what you asked for. And if we're talking about having a bioconvergence company, then you really need to bring in talents that touch on all angles. An expert in machine learning, in our case, it could be robotics in a different company, and experts in the domain, in the pharma space or medical space, health tech space, whatever, from the life sciences background usually, or medical background. It's absolutely critical. The way that we do it is, first, the boot camp is very helpful for us when we select a founder, because then we have the opportunity to really put them under stress, and we put them in a 5-day boot camp with a very strict timeline, that they get to work in a multidisciplinary team under pressure. And what we are evaluating and selecting, the parameters that we select our founders according to, is according to 3 parameters. First of all, the level of innovativity of their technology. Are they really propelling the industry forward and bringing a solution that doesn't already exist? That's number 1. Number 2 is their scientific background and capabilities to actually pull it off. And then third is their character, their leadership skills, but also their coachability. I like to say I have one rule for this lab from a culture perspective. We're going to have a strict 0 asshole policy. No assholes allowed in Ion Labs. We all know what one toxic person can do. When you put good people that are aligned on a mission together, even if they come from multiple disciplines, you can bridge that gap as long as the people know how to be coachable, know how to learn, know how to listen, and really are driven by doing well by helping others. And that's something we put a lot of emphasis as part of our core values, and really look to promote here. And the world is becoming more and more multidisciplinary, so those that do not have respect for other disciplines they don't know about are just, it's not their place for them to work with us very strictly in that sense. And thankfully, I think we're finding more and more people that we don't have to reach that point. The second thing about how can you partner with us, so very simply, if you follow us and you see our challenges, we would love to have talents coming from your institution or from the country as mentioned. We've already had a couple that would come to Israel, compete for our challenges, either as a leader of a new startup or as a worker in a new startup. You don't always have to be a leader if you don't have the experience necessary or the confidence necessary to build and lead a new startup, which is a hard thing to do. But we're happy for contenders to come and apply for our challenges. I'd ask again that you help spread the word when you can. We will have another set of 4 challenges in 2023, so we're going to repeat this process every year. So stay in touch with us, and we will. And if you want to work with us, we can bring you to Israel, or we can work with you there. I'm happy to put you in touch with anyone on our side that can help with that. Hopefully that answered your question.